Yeah, I would say the yin and yang thing is the biggest, because we talked about this yesterday, actually.
We were talking about it yesterday.
It's perfect timing because we're supporting each other in our own ways. So yin and yang, I almost feel like there's like this tug and pull kind of thing always happening. If it's something new, let's say if it's a new project or a new idea or a conference we're going to speak at, some are just like a hell yes, let's do it. And other ones are just like, there's a debate happening.
This is an intro. Intro.
Hustle and Flowchart with your boy, my boy, Matt Wolfe and Joe Fier.
Hey there.
Hey.
So this is going to be a different one, huh?
A little bit.
Things have changed in today's plans a little bit.
Yeah, so
for this episode.
Yeah, this is going to be a little out of the norm because it's one of our Tuesday episodes, which is usually you and I just talking to each other.
Right.
But this time we decided to use an interview of somebody else interviewing us, but this interview was never going to see the light of day otherwise.
Correct.
We really liked this interview and we wanted it to see the light of day.
We're like, wait. There's a place for you. Content never dies.
Yeah.
So a little backstory for you, and there's a reason why you see the name Stephen Spencer attached to this episode along with us on a day that typically is just Matt and I chatting with you and talking about whatever internal struggles and wins and external. No, it's our chance to yak about what's happening really, and our thoughts, our trends, perspectives on things around the world, what we think's coming up. So Stefan had us on his podcast called Get Yourself Optimized. Mm-hmm. He's also the host of Marketing Speak, two great podcasts. This guy has been phenomenal in terms of, so many things. I met him over 10 years ago at a mastermind locally here. But since then, since this podcast, he's referred so many people our way.
Yeah.
Some amazing people that you've had, or that we've had on this podcast that you've heard. And a lot of that was from Spencer. So we just publicly want to appreciate you, man.
Yeah, and if you want to, he's also just an SEO wizard, and we did an episode with him a little while back where he broke down all of his SEO wizardry. So we'll make sure we link that up. So if you want to kind of get Stefan's backstory and learn what he has his expertise in, definitely go check out this episode or that episode. But this episode, we're going to focus on us.
Yeah. So this episode, we're on his podcast today. Basically, a little background is we had some video issues.
Yeah, there's a tech snafu.
Yeah, so the tech snafu caused us to, we have another day on the books to redo that interview, but we're like, hey, we like that audio, so let's put that here.
Yeah.
And we had a little bit of video. It was just kind of set throughout. So we have some that we'll publish to Hustle and Flowchart, assuming that we can get the video to go right, but it's on, it's on hustleandflowchart.tv on YouTube. So, we just figured, okay, so this interview, it's still, I guess, about us and our perspectives and stuff, but we just happen to have Stefan as interviewing us for this whole thing.
Well, I really liked his line of questioning, and we'll talk more about our thoughts on the conversation in the outro of this episode. But I really liked his line of questioning, and it really kind of he stumped us on a few questions too,
sure.
which was cool because it makes us jump off the episode and think a little bit deeper about some of the questions he was asking.
He asked amazing questions. So it's kind of nice to have him, from a totally different perspective. He's a deep thinker. He's well studied. He's knows a ton of people, so his perspectives are just vast.
Yeah.
And his shows are really interesting too, like Marketing Speak. It's a lot of business and marketing, and then you have Get Yourself Optimized, and it gets a little bit down the wormhole, a little bit like it's almost like a blend of our show in a way.
Yeah.
Two shows of his. I don't know, like the topics. We blend a lot. So cool. All that to say is I think you'll enjoy this episode. You're probably going to want some action guides or the action guide from this episode. They are free right now. Don't wait more than 2 weeks and then they go away. They're not free after that point.
Flowchartgroup.com is where you get those. You can join the Facebook group, and when you join the Facebook group, we'll ask you for your email. If you give us that email, we'll give you the action guide. So that's
good trade.
Flowchartgroup.com. Go do that. And also, we have an amazing sponsor of this episode.
Yeah.
So
I want to hear about them.
Let's talk about them right now.
Yo, Matt. All right. How you doing?
I'm all right.
All right, cool. Yeah. So
like you care.
Yeah, well, I know you're right. I'm just moving on to the next thing. So, just kidding. All right. We recently did a full-on audit of our site.
We did,
and we saw
SEO
issues.
audit specifically.
Yes, SEO audit, and we had some issues.
Yeah.
So walk me through this. What we used Ahrefs.
We did use Ahrefs, and when I ran our site through Ahrefs, I found all sorts of little calamities.
Calamities, yes. So Ahrefs, it was nice enough to give us the advice on how to fix these things, I believe,
yes,
right?
Ahrefs tells you, hey, look, this should be HTTPS, but you've got it as HTTP. Maybe go fix that. Hey, this link is porting to a 404 broken page. Maybe go fix that one.
Bueno.
Hey, this URL here is redirecting like 4 times before it gets to the final destination. Maybe that's something you could fix, right? And you go and fix all those things, and the next thing you know, your site actually ranks a little bit better and goes a little bit faster. Like,
so
what?
the point is, we should probably be paying attention. Everyone, you listening, should be monitoring your SEO health, right?
Yes. You should
You're
be
the
monitoring.
SEO overlord over here, at least of the two of us.
Yeah, you should be monitoring your SEO health if SEO is important to you in your business.
Yes, definitely should. We get most of our new traffic through SEO, and it's fabulous because it's free traffic. But we position our content in a way where it's attractive to Google and you, the listener, if you came through SEO. Maybe. Yeah. So Ahrefs is hooking you up, though, because they still have their normal Ahrefs, which we highly recommend. We've still used to this day for years and years and years on end. Every other SEO expert that we've had on the show also uses it. Well, now they have a free version that is actually a thing that's going to monitor your website for its health, 100 SEO issues and more. Backlinks, like you'll know who's linking to you and all that stuff. There's opportunities for you to do stuff there. And then, of course, all the keywords that are ranking for you. You can get this for free.
Yeah, it's free. Like, we talk about Ahrefs. We've been talking about Ahrefs forever. They now have a new thing called Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. You can find out about it over at ahrefs.com/AWT. That's ahrefs.com/AWT. Ahrefs Webmaster Tools. It is a free version of Ahrefs. So go check this thing out. Best conversion rate you're going to get. Monitor your SEO health, backlinks, and keywords for free. Check out ahrefs.com/AWT.
Woohoo! That was a good one.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
Those guys are awesome. So let's go jump in and have Stephen Spencer talk to us.
Mr. Spencer to you.
I was going to say let's talk to Stephen Spencer, but Stephen Spencer's more talking to us. I don't know.
Let's find out in this episode.
Let's just go.
In this episode, we're going to talk a little more kind of business, metaphysical, not just marketing. We'll touch on marketing, but I wanted to go a little more off script for this episode. And plus, it's been a couple years since we did that interview.
Yeah.
So, great to have you here. Let's, first of all, if you could share a bit more of your lessons learned, maybe the more painful lessons learned in your journey of entrepreneurship and podcasting and, networking and consulting, all that sort of stuff, mastermind running, etc.
Yeah. Excuse me. Like when I think of, some struggles, I'm like, well, about 10 minutes ago, we were just like looking at affiliate marketing and tracking and pixels and things are dropping right now. We're like, oh, great. This is a new endeavor that we have to deal with in our type of business. So that's the latest struggle, if you wanted to know. But
that was really fresh. That's an open wound.
That's an open wound right now, unsolved. But we'll talk to you in a couple years or so and bring up how we solved that problem. But yeah, Matt and I, to take it way back, like we might have talked about on Marketing Speak, is we're kind of brothers from other mothers. Like we've known each other for almost 20 years, and things have changed a lot in that span of time. Being like from bands, we played a lot of music separately, but similar group of people. But I worked for his parents, and during that time, that's when him and I got the bug to start creating content online. And we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and that was our purple book that got us all started, and opened up the perspective of what's possible and what we enjoyed doing, which was kind of curating content. And I feel like our business has developed as curators. We haven't realized and that we were actually curators until like last year.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that's what we've been doing, kind of, I guess, the natural path, and it's just developed from there.
Yeah, I think when we really leaned in and decided, you know what, I think where our sweet spot is just as curators of smart people, curators of cool tools, curators of ideas. It almost takes a little bit of pressure off of us in the sense that we don't have to be the gurus. We don't have to be the people, plowing the path for others. We can just be the people that are going, hey, here's what you should be paying attention to right now. And I think that was a big aha for us. And when we leaned into that, then I feel like business and life got a lot easier. I would say from a more maybe mental standpoint, it's kind of cliche, but just figuring out how to enjoy the journey. I think that's been a huge lesson for us, figuring out how to stop looking farther into the future and going, that's where the goalpost is now. So let's sprint to that goalpost, and starting to have this realization that we just need to be enjoying what we're doing every day. When we wake up and we come into the office, let's make sure that day is a day that's really, really fun and enjoyable for us. And let's stop looking at, we'll be enjoying this in 2 years when we get here. And let's start figuring out how to enjoy every single day and make the whole process fun. Make it all about the process instead of the destination. And I think that's been a big sort of mindset shift for us that we've had over the last 3-ish years, where we've really kind of went, let's figure out how to make work fun every day. We literally have a sticker right here in front of us that says, this is going to be fun. Mm-hmm. And we read it right before we get on podcasts, right before we get on interviews. We're high-fiving each other. We're like, let's do this. And we just kind of get into this fun mode. And that's kind of what business has turned into for us, is figure out how to make what we're doing on a daily basis as fun as possible. So we're just super pumped to get in here every day and just do our thing. So enjoying the process and not waiting for some destination to finally enjoy the process is, I think, that's been a big lesson.
Yeah, that's an ongoing thing in its own path. But
you guys mentioned goalposts and having fun. Well, what are you doing to celebrate some of these goalposts and give our listener an example or two of some goalposts that you've recently hit and what you did to celebrate those?
Yeah, it's a great one. Our biggest goalpost, I would say, is this studio that was traveling for a long time. We were chasing it for a long time, that is.
We've been talking about having a studio like this for probably 8 years now, and we finally did it 3 months ago.
Yeah. So and we scored a spot that is way too big for us. But so we kind of celebrated in that. I mean, obviously there were some opportunities with commercial real estate, in open spaces. So we're like, okay, well, now's our time, I guess. So we chose it as a place the primary reason was, of course, to make content like this and use video content. And this is just beta version of the studio. It's going to turn into way more. So the way that we celebrate is the fact that how we show up here is a celebration. It's like a micro celebration every day in a way. When our heads are finally geared this way, it wasn't always like that when we moved in here. There was a lot of hiccups with this, but I'd say the celebrations are honestly the time of just chilling out and feeling like we're just hanging out, and we have these conversations with no ending. There's no container really, other than this time we'll head back home, but
I also think we've started to celebrate the mini the mini wins for us too, right? We've started doing a lot more stuff where it's you know what, we just did a live stream with X amount of people. That's awesome that we just did that. I mean, 5 years ago we would have been looking at people doing these live streams going, one day we're going to be doing live streams to that many people, and we literally just did that an hour ago. High five, and we'll put on music and get ourselves
a California burrito.
Yeah, we get ourselves all pumped up and excited. So I think we've done a much better job especially since Joe and I are in the same place. Before, he was working at his house, I was working at my house. We were kind of in a different location all the time, and the fact that we're in the same place, we've really started to celebrate the little stuff a lot more often because we're both right next to each other. And
I got a good one.
Yeah.
So we've established No Worky Wednesdays now.
That's true.
We don't really have a working title, but that's basically
Joe's title.
Yeah. We take Wednesdays off from work. And when I say off, there's no calls that we're scheduled for, no meetings, nothing like that. And this the day, it's almost like a mini weekend, and we're checking in, maybe clearing out some stuff in the morning, but what we've contained our work is to the other 4 days of the work week. And we basically, this is the day I spend with my daughter almost all day long, and I get to do that and kind of take my mind off of things. And you're doing all sorts of stuff, you consume a ton of content,
but
we chose to this is a huge celebration is because now we can let our mind off the hook kind of in the middle of the flow of everything. And it's allowed us to 80-20 or even go deeper on the key actions that we should be taking. And it has us really focused in and dialed in or planned out in advance like we've never been before.
Yeah.
So it's been great on the mind, I would say, more than anything.
Yeah.
That's the celebration.
And the productivity has been like huge too, like condensing our work week down into 4 days. It Parkinson's law, right? You figure out how to get everything you want to get done in those 4 days now instead of 5 days. And it feels like we have 2 Fridays. Every Tuesday we're kind of leaving the office going, what are you doing this weekend? And same thing on Friday, right? So like it feels like we have 2 ends of the week where we're kind of looking forward to not coming to the office and not getting any work done, just spending time with the family. So that's been a really big one too.
Yeah. So let's take an example of a goalpost where you hit maybe a financial number or let's say, for example, a financial number.
Yeah.
OKRs, are you familiar with that term? Objectives and key results?
I've heard of that, not the...
Okay. But KPIs, key
Sure.
performance indicators. So what would be an example of a KPI in your business, and what did you do when you hit that number in terms of celebrations and changing the way that you operated the business from that point forward?
That's a great question. I could think of a micro one, and that's, I think we had a promotion around Pod Hacker, so our newest training. And if we met, I forget exactly what the goal was, but after this promo, if we get this many, we're going to go buy a Mac Mini and some other tech for the studio. So that would allow us then to essentially walk into the studio, click a couple buttons, and we have our studio ready to record content. And that used to be a friction point for us to do that kind of thing. That was, a big piece of it. But specifically, some of this equipment that we ended up buying, we're not like we couldn't buy them before, but I think we kept it as a goalpost, so it allowed us to kind of use it as motivation. And we know now our workflow is much smoother because of it. That's obviously a micro one. I don't know if there's another bigger one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't really feel like we celebrate numbers too much, like in our business.
Well, with
right?
the goalpost as being, I would say one was maybe in the email marketing side of things. Like I don't know if that would actually count too much. That's a really good question, Stefan. Did the Mac Mini? Do you think that kind of answer?
That one counts. That one counts.
Okay.
Is there a number that you want to, or that you're willing to share with our listener in terms of a number you're very proud of, like hitting a certain number of email list subscribers, or number of monthly downloads, or number of downloads per episode, or total downloads of all time, or anything like that?
Like what lights you up?
Yeah, it's interesting because in our business, we're not really the numbers guys, right? We've got our content manager who runs our podcast and YouTube channel. He's paying attention to the numbers there. And then we've got our email automation guy who pays attention to all the numbers there. And so like we've kind of positioned ourselves in this place where our goal, our focus, our mind space is always on how do we create better content? How do we create better content? And we kind of just live in that world.
Engagement, I would say, would be more the KPI. And to be honest, I think that's where we're still figuring out how to measure that perfectly, because engagement's all over the platforms. They track it in different ways. But I mean, our focus is really our audience at the end of the day. That's our connection. I'm more the connector, and you are more the systems, but we're looking at behavior patterns along the way. So we know if the money's coming in, if the KPIs are looking good in terms of our email systems and our download numbers are, like, I know we celebrate every basically 10,000, leap, I would say, in downloads per month.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Every time we go up by about 10,000, we kind of make a big deal around it.
I would say that's like a mental celebration or a goal post that we always have in mind. It's like these 10K increments. And I would say email is probably right around there. Maybe it's a little lower because we know we can do a lot with a little amount of people as well with segmentation. So
yeah. I feel like the big wins that we tend to celebrate are more around like, oh, we just got Robert Cialdini on the show. That's a big win for us. So we get, it's interesting because I feel like we get more lit up around things like that than we do numbers.
We're less, at least for me, I know you are more analytical, but yeah, I guess the numbers specifically, I like perspective changes, and the ability to kind of release the need to focus on something that might not be so natural for me or have a flow state kind of feeling attached to it. So that's why I won't naturally gravitate to doing some deep level systems or analytical type work. I want to be out there connecting and finding gaps or ways for us to do cool things with others, or even think differently and not do as much and, open that time up and give value somehow else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's your unique
down,
ability.
Really. Yeah.
And so if we were to, let's say, take a book that's been pivotal for you, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and apply some of the learnings that you got from that to your business and how it's shaped your business today, what would be some of the key takeaways or teaching points for our listener on that?
Yeah, when Rich Dad Poor Dad came out, or not when it came out, when we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, when we discovered it came out long before we discovered it. But when we discovered it, we were both working in day jobs. We kind of were on the rat race, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Like, that was kind of our world. So I think the reason Rich Dad Poor Dad, we both kind of talk about how impactful it was for us. It was more, it gave us this perspective shift, that this idea that, you can go and actually create income outside of time constraints. You can create an income stream that pays the bills and not have to work from 9 to 5 or some set of hours. I think it was really, our minds hadn't been open to those kinds of possibilities yet. Like, it was just like a new world that opened up to us of like investing and passive income and being an entrepreneur. Like, it just sort of opened our eyes to that kind of stuff, and we went, oh, this is something we can kind of get into.
Mm-hmm. And I would add on to that, because the first thing that comes to mind as a specific takeaway is getting out of the hourly rate thing, period. And that might even be the CPM rate. Like, it's almost like get out of the whole rate thing and maybe do more of a flat rate approach and get out of, almost create your own way of quantifying your worth. Mm-hmm. And because we do that with our podcast sponsorships, we break out of the whole CPM, rate there and earn dramatically more because we're bundling in different audience groups for our sponsorships is like an example of that. Mm-hmm. It's project work rather than doing hourly work for a client, or it's creating a lot of income streams that are, a lot of affiliate dominant, but also there's a lot of other, like sponsorship type things that are happening. Or partnership deals where I feel like there's not typically a rate associated with it. I think that was kind of like a mindset that at least I was stuck in for most of my life.
Yeah. One takeaway I got from that book many, many years ago when I read it was that anything that puts money in your pocket is an asset. Anything that takes money away or out of your pocket is a liability, and therefore the house you live in is a liability, not an asset. And so many of your business quote unquote assets are actually liabilities, right? Pimp out your new laptop so that it's the most extravagant laptop possible, and it's not actually any more productive. Like my laptop that I have now, which is an M1 MacBook Pro, is as slow as my 3-year-old MacBook Pro that's Intel based, that was top of the line back 3 years ago when I bought it. It's just as slow.
Wow.
Very frustrating. So I pimped my expenses, to use a term from Keith Cunningham, or from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was a liability instead of an asset getting that new laptop, in retrospect. Now, it's not to say that I wouldn't still buy it all over again, because I do like having a brand new laptop. But at least I'm thinking about these sorts of things before I make a purchase. Is it an asset or is it a liability? So, yeah. Thank you, that's Robert Kiyosaki, for that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what has been the greatest gift and the greatest struggle having both of you as the business owners and the co-hosts of the podcast, and it's a business marriage, and it can go very badly, and you guys are wired differently. Matt is more of an introvert. Joe, you're more of an extrovert. And so what's been on the positive side a big win or lesson, and then on the negative side, big struggle?
Yeah, so on the positive side, I feel like there's a yin and yang thing, right? We shore each other up in the areas where the other one is not quite as strong. So like when it comes to the business specifically, I'm much stronger with like the technical type stuff. Like I know a lot of the tools, the integrations, like what softwares to use, like what how to do the tracking, the workflows, building a lot of systems, stuff like that. And so Joe kind of leans on me for a lot of that kind of stuff. But like you mentioned, I'm also a little bit more introverted. I like my natural tendency isn't to want to go to conferences or networking events or get on podcasts or do live streams or speak on stage or any of that kind of stuff. And Joe's kind of the first one that when the opportunities come along, he's like, yeah, let's go for it. Sounds like a good opportunity. So, we kind of pull each other up in those two areas. Like he'll pull me up on stage with him, and I'll systematize the heck out of what he's doing so that I make his life's a little bit easier. But we both kind of shore up those areas, and I think that's probably the biggest sort of positive. And it's not just those areas. Those are just kind of two examples of like there's a very yin and yang kind of thing going on where like my strengths are his weaknesses and vice versa.
Yeah, I would say the yin and yang thing is the biggest, because we talked about this yesterday, actually.
We were talking about it yesterday.
It's perfect timing because he's always, we're supporting each other in our own ways. So yin and yang, I almost feel like there's like this tug and pull kind of thing always happening. If it's something new, let's say if it's a new project or a new idea or a conference we're going to speak at, some are just like a hell yes, let's do it. And other ones are just like, there's a debate happening. Mm-hmm. And I feel like now we know where our strengths lie. And I know where I'm not going to say I'm the best one to, say that's the way to go. Mm-hmm. So like if it's a systems thing or if it's a tracking thing or like, all that, tech stuff, maybe deeper strategy in terms of specifics, I just lean on Matt. But at the same time, I feel like so you put a lot of containers like on our schedule. The whole reason we're not working Wednesday is really you, but that's something I know we've wanted to do for a long time. So I think I wanted to put a lot of different ideas and connect things that might not be so visible in the current state. So it pushes both of us further. Like I want to run and sprint, but Matt's kind of like, okay, hold on, let's figure out the right shoes to do that. So we slow down, figure out, let's choose the tool and the time to do this. And then we kind of do that thing together. Yeah. So there's always that yin and yang happening. Yeah. And it came from really understanding, I think, just a bunch of time, like you said, a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the downsides, I feel like we've gotten pretty good at communicating with each other and like working together and sort of like a lot of times if I bring a question to Joe, I kind of already sort of know how he's going to answer and respond to it. And I'm pretty sure it's the same way, the opposite way. Like we just know each other's personalities now. So like if I piss off Joe, I probably did it on purpose because I know what buttons will piss off Joe. Right. So like
that's actually extremely accurate. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, it could go the other way too.
Yeah, it does. But I would say for the most part, we are, we have a pretty good relationship that has very few cracks. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, there might be scenarios where like I'm just exhausted from yesterday or Joe didn't get a lot of sleep and maybe one of us comes in a little bit grumpy and that sort of, that sort of brings down the energy of like the collective. That happens from time to time, but I also think both of us are pretty good at snapping the other one out of it too.
Well, now we are. I think this whole resetting and this whole thing of this is going to be fun, changing the mindset of this place that we're in, and him and I being together and actually communicating, not just through Slack, because like I think that was like a point. I think communication has been the biggest thing to work through for both of us, but it's also understanding ourselves. So we were talking about breakthroughs and stuff like that before the call. Like I feel like this year has been a lot of that for us mentally and like what we actually desire. So we know how far we should probably push it with each other, and then we already know how to talk with each other. So, there's no reason in keeping us in the muck. Like, let's raise each other up and have fun with this whole thing.
Yeah, cool. And you guys are 50-50 partners?
We are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's high stakes sort of type of partnership because boy, if you guys come to a disagreement that becomes untenable, it's just a fight to the death sort of situation unless somebody just voluntarily walks away. Nobody has the upper hand.
And I think that's okay. Well, I mean, it's obviously we can have all these crazy agreements and stuff, and we have legal stuff out there. All like we're comfortable with each other, but at the same time, I don't know, the way that we've always supported each other, even outside of an official business. Our current business, we're 50-50 partners. Anytime we've partnered up, we have been. But there are a lot of years still that we're just supporting each other on the side, with our own endeavors, him doing websites, me doing a lot more of the sales videos and consulting that way. And, it's kind of always felt like this. We always know where to shore each other up. And I don't know, I feel like there's always going to be this sense of collaboration no matter what happens. And I mean, that's how our business is built anyway. We just collaborate with other people like yourself. And excuse me, like it's kind of like I don't know. I just feel like that's, even if we did have to break up or something happened, we kind of have our lane and we still have that going along with it. And the style of business would be pretty simple.
I don't feel like either of us feel trapped or anything like that. I feel like, both of us are fairly confident in the longevity of the relationship, but we're also both fairly confident in that if we ever decided the path we're on, we can't agree on, we're both the type that we'd probably come to some sort of amicable conclusion of the whole thing.
It's a good thing that neither of us are really like money hungry. Like that's not the thing. It's not like business.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
that's
like,
probably very clear when you're like, asking about numbers, is that money's not really the motivation for us anymore. It's more motivated by like, how do we enjoy what we're doing when we do come into the office? But then also, how do we make a lifestyle where we don't have to come into the office as often? Yeah.
No worky Wednesdays. Yep.
No worky Wednesday. Joe's trying to get that to catch on with me.
That's 2 days in a row I've mentioned it, so it's going out there.
It's kind of a thing. I think a registered trademark is next.
Yeah, that's right. I like it.
So how did you guys meet? Was it some sort of synchronicity, some sort of magic, I don't know, introduction or something that made this happen?
Moonlit walk on the beach. Yeah, no,
for sure. There probably have been some of those, but that wasn't the meeting.
Yeah.
No, it was. So we had this mutual friend, but my singer at the time, a guy named Cameron, I was in a band and I think he had a party and he was like, "Hey, you got to meet my buddy Matt. He's into that kind of, I think we're into still like a little bit of businessy type marketing.
Cameron
stuff.
was also a singer in a band that I was in.
And that's right. Yeah.
So not at the same time, but like he was in a band with you as a singer. He's in a band with me as a singer at different times.
So that was the meeting. Mm-hmm. And, but it was like, I think that was a light meeting. And then I was working at a famous footwear. So Hawkins Shoes. And then his mom came in the door. And I helped her out, and she introduced herself as like, "Hey, I'm Matt's mom." And I was like, "Okay, great, great to meet you." And I guess she really liked me there. I helped her out, and she was like, "Yeah, you should work for us."
Yeah.
I'm like, huh? Okay, that's probably better than this. And chatted with them, and essentially it was working with them. That's where we became really close as friends.
Yeah. We worked at a shutter company. It was actually the family business. I kind of ran the factory side of things, and Joe kind of ran the front office side of things. Mm-hmm. And we got we were kind of acquaintances through that buddy Cameron, but that's where we like really kind of got to be buddies and partners is during that time. Yeah. So in 2007 was when we actually. I don't know if we had just read like the 4-Hour Work Week or something like that. And we went, you know what, we should start a blog. Like it might not make money, but at least like we could teach all this internet marketing stuff that we're learning along the way.
We're just nerding out reading forums of the times. And what were some of that we were reading? Lifehacker,
the Remit Cities, I'll Teach You to Be Rich, Shoe Money. Mm-hmm. We were in the Warrior Forum a lot at the time.
It was kind of that blend. So I think that really put a lot of seeds in our minds, and a lot of those folks we still, we still read their stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them we've had on the podcast, like Michael Gerber, when we read the E-Myth, we've had him on the podcast, and like, it's really cool now to actually have some of these legends that helped us, bring ourselves up. And I don't know.
Very cool.
But that's our meeting. Yeah.
Have you had Robert Kiyosaki on?
We've actually had a couple people offer to introduce him to us, but it's never actually happened yet. It will happen. It just hasn't yet.
That's right. Putting it out there.
It's in the vortex. It's in your vortex.
It's always in there. Oh, we got it, my man.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for everything you've always done to help us, too.
Oh, of
bringing
course.
some of these legends to our front door.
Yeah, of course. Now, Joe, you had a baby not long ago, or your wife did, more technically, correct?
She did. Yes. That's a good correction.
Yeah. And
20 months ago,
20 months ago. So ours is 22 months. So that was pretty similar time frame. And I just wanted to throw this out there, especially for any parent listening, not just for Joe. And Matt, are you a parent too?
I am. I have an 8 and a 6-year-old.
Okay. So more relevant for the really young ones. I interviewed Janet Doman recently on this podcast. She is phenomenal. She runs the Institutes for the Advancement of Human Potential, IAHP. So it's IAHP.org. And what I learned from her is how to multiply your baby's intelligence, or in this case, toddlers, because
I like
quite a baby anymore. And like today, for example, I was going through hundreds of cards with my little David, everything from dinosaurs to leaves to plants and mammals and reptiles and polygons and everything.
Yeah.
And he is so adept at identifying things. So you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these cards. And so that is just one concept that I learned from Janet, taking her and her team's 40-hour course, which was just gifted to us. It was an amazing blessing. It came out of nowhere for us and for our little one. So check out that episode with Janet Doman, because we go into more detail on some of the stuff. You teach your baby how to read. You can teach your baby to do math, and it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
I'm worried how advanced we can make these babies before they're. No, I'm just kidding. I love that, because we have
baby. The babies are going to take over the world.
Yeah. I mean, we already have our little one, McKenna, in preschool, because she was pushing for that whole. She's definitely advanced, and she needs some social time, and it's crazy the difference so far just with that, and the way they're doing things through Montessori schools. It's a Montessori school, so it's a different way of teaching and all that. But I'll check out Janet's episode. I love all that stuff, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, you bet. Yeah, so Montessori, Waldorf, or Steiner philosophy, these are fantastic alternative approaches to educating your child. And I have 3 adult daughters who went to Waldorf school when they were kids, and that was fabulous. And Montessori is great too. They're different, but both really great alternative types of programs for teaching your kid. But this program that I took with IAHP and Janet is other level, so definitely check it out.
Perfect, will do.
Yeah, so let's talk about how to enjoy the journey in more. Let me rephrase that. Let's talk about lessons and opportunities missed in the journey. So we've talked about celebration and making the journey feel more fun and exciting and positive as you're going through it. But what about all those missed opportunities? What about the screw ups? What about the broken relationships and all the things that didn't go well? Challenges that have been very difficult. So what do you tell our listener about how to enjoy or relish or gain value from these things, even if they're really, really painful and awful?
Yeah. Let me see. Kind of thinking about some context here. Well, for some reason, the very first thing that comes to mind in terms of our business I wouldn't say it's awful, but it was definitely a learning lesson. Is that startup Toggly that we were a part of?
Oh, dude, we've had so many like that too.
I know, but that one was the first where we actually had investors attached to it, and we saw what happens when it's not our money.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was like horrible or anything, but we just started to. This was how many years ago? Like 6, 7?
It would have been about 2012, 2013, somewhere in that range.
It was pretty early on in our entrepreneurial career where I don't think we understood enough principles that would help us, probably navigate that. Like now we would not join it. Mm-hmm. But back then, we're excited, shiny object, like, oh, we can be an investor or a
founder.
Founder, equity holder of this company that's backed by people and Sony and all these other, it was a photography based company. And I don't know, that one comes to mind as one that was brand new, but it was this big lesson, and we ended up actually bailing out of it, and we're friends with the founder, and we're able to basically buy back our shares and release our requirements there because
other way around, we sold our shares.
We sold our share. Yeah. There you go. Wasn't a lot of money, but still, we're like, you know what? Let's just get this. It's almost like this energetic pull that was just sucking our resources and taking away from our own business.
Yeah. Well, I would say like the more macro of what you're saying too is that we have had a tendency over the years to simplify our business, right? We'll systematize our business. We'll take things off our plate. We'll make our lives easier. And then we'll notice we've got some gaps, right? Right now, we've got, what do you call it? Wednesday.
Oh, no worky
Wednesday, right? So it's like we've got this gap, and opportunities would present themselves, and we go, we got a little bit of time. I mean, we can take on another opportunity, and then we add stuff into the mix, and next thing we know, we're spinning multiple plates going, we've got too much on our plate again. Why are we so stressed out all of the time? And it's because like whenever we create free space, we tend to find ways to fill that free space with new opportunities. We've done it with Toggly back in the day. We did it with a site, Homebrew Academy, which was a site about how to brew beer. We've done it with
we've taken on a couple
SaaS companies that we were in for a little while and then realized, okay, this is taking up way too much time. And then we backed out on these various SaaS companies. There's still SaaS companies that sell right now, so I don't really want to talk too much about them. But I think that's one of the things that we tend to do is we tend to create space, create systems, make our life easier, and then fill those gaps after we've created them. And I think that's something we've gotten better at doing. I mean, within the last 6 months or so, it's kind of a fairly new realization, but
it's the first time we've had this realization as well.
Yeah,
like it's now we see it that we do this kind of ebb and flow thing. I think it's the pull back to our personalities again. Like if it was up to Matt, he'd probably just blog and have affiliate marketing products around the whole thing.
Probably
and grow an email list,
and
like
run
keep
ads
it super small.
Yeah.
Like, but
it sounds a bit like Parkinson's law. So you free up some time, you build some systems, and like, oh, well, I guess we can fill some of that space.
Yep,
right,
100%. That's it,
and that's not workable because then you get to overwhelm and stress and discomfort, and you got to pull back.
I feel like we've gotten really good lately at pretty much saying no to opportunities, even when they look like really good opportunities. So
many times.
That's very good. That's discernment, and that's very important.
And I will add one more thing, and this is a belief that we've talked about quite a bit, but this guy, Ryan Berman, that we had on the show recently, I think articulated it really well, is that, we for the longest time we were trying to figure out what our North Star was. Like, where are we trying to go? What is the goalpost we're shooting for now? What is the next big thing that we want to achieve? And we're constantly trying to achieve this North Star. And when you get close to that North Star, you go, we could push a little harder. And then you push the goalpost out, and then you get closer to that goalpost, and you don't actually reach the goalpost, but you see more potential, and you push the goalpost out further, right? And we're constantly trying to find this North Star, and then we're trying to push that North Star even out further. And I think the solution, the reality is that the North Star is like this internal thing. The North Star is the contentment in today. The North Star is going, okay, that might be what we're striving for, but I'm happy with what I get to do today. I'm happy with the stuff I'm going to do when I get to the office today. I'm going to have a good day. It's going to be fun. I'm going to look back at today and go, that was a good day. And the North Star has become having more of those days and less of this thing in the future.
That's like being in the present moment. That's a really good idea.
It's so tough, man. Yeah.
Let's circle back to this idea of curating people, tools, and ideas.
Sure. Yeah.
So how are you so good at it? Is it that you're tuning into your intuition? Is it that you have a big network and you just sit back and wait for things to show up from that network, or are you doing a lot of hard slog, or what?
I think it's really a blend of our two personalities and our two strengths. So like for me, I kind of keep my finger on the pulse of the latest tools and software and tech because I'm a systems guy. I want to know how to make my life easier. I want to find shortcuts for the stuff I'm already doing. I'm constantly looking for systems and ways to make the things I'm already doing easier. And so that's kind of the world that I live in. I'm watching YouTube videos, reading blogs, reading books, listening to podcasts. Like I kind of stay immersed in that world of like kind of tools and technology and systems and things like that, where Joe is really like the connector. Like he's just constantly meeting new people, getting on calls with people every day, asking for introductions, like that's kind of the world that he always lives in. So I feel like what we've actually created is just kind of the marriage of those two worlds.
I would say it's accurate. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think we plant a lot of seeds because we genuinely want to work together and hang out with the people that we like, and the people that we a lot of our friends are folks that have crossed through our podcast. They're our email partners now have become good friends of ours. They actually came through our podcast. I feel like there's a lot of just connected things that have happened over the years that, and you have been so amazing too as to introducing us to many people. And you and I met, I think it was back at Think Tank, DK's event. David Klein, I don't know what year that was, but
like 2010 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was very early on in what I was doing, but, I was working with key people like DK. But from that point, I met guys like Mike Koenigs, Amish Shah, and those two people alone, like
Dan Ryan.
Yeah. And like all three of those people I think I've chatted with this week, and they're still great referral partners. We do business together. But that was planted, over 10 years ago now. So I think just a lot of that has happened on my part. Yeah, and you're always so up on all the content and what's fresh right now.
Well, and we both had this kind of like personality trait of like we love to show off what we think is cool. Like the way I've always been my whole life is I would get like a new gadget and I would want to tell everybody about it. I'd get a new camera and I'd tell like my parents and my friends and I'd be like, dude, this is the coolest thing. Check out what it could do. And let me show you this button. Did you see what this would do? And then like I would get like a brand new game and I would be like the evangelist for that video game. I would tell all my friends, you got to get this game. This is the coolest thing. Everybody's got to check this out. I've always been that person that like when I discover something that's really cool for me, I want everybody to experience the same joy that I'm getting out of it. So I just naturally want to tell everybody about it. And I feel like we've built a business that just puts structure around that.
Well, it's funny. You're making me remember myself now because just like over the last handful of years, and I don't know if it's become more of the podcast, but I think it's always been. I always like to teach people about new things I've learned. For me, it's not as much techie. It's like, hey, check out this, I don't know, maybe it's like a breathing meditation that's doing this, like, holy crap, this thing, maybe you got to check that thing out, or I'll nerd off on some topic about, I don't know, maybe there's some investment stuff, talking about different structures that you can do stuff. And I think that's a natural thing that you and I both just love to do. And it comes out through the podcast as our main vehicle. And I think both of us, we reframe the curator concept actually popped in both of our minds around the same time separately, weird enough. And that's where we're like, our podcast is just a curation of the best minds that are in our network, or ones that we're seeking, who we want to display on, or maybe a new tool or something that we want to curate, something novel that we know our people are going to like. And it's going to create a better experience, a life for entrepreneurs. I feel like that's really what we're after, is to curate what is going to make the entrepreneur like us 10 years ago, what would we have wanted to know, or who would we want as a legend to pull us up, or bring us up to where we're at now and beyond, and be happy to enjoy the journey along the whole way. I feel like that's what we're trying to get across in our podcast as it stands now and into the future.
Yeah, it's like we want to share the joy that we find in the things that bring us joy. So something might bring us joy, like a new conversation, like this person's really fascinating. We got to tell the world about this person, right? I feel like there's a handful of people we brought on the podcast that nobody knew who they were. We brought them on the podcast. We helped give them a little bit of a platform, and then they did a lot of the work themselves beyond that. But, they went on to do amazing things.
Yeah.
And, I feel like that's what we like doing with tools, with people, with new ideas and concepts, all of that kind of stuff. We're just like, this thing brings me joy. Like, this makes me really excited. I really like this thing. How do I make sure other people know about this? So like when people come to us and say, you guys are really good at affiliate marketing, what's your trick? That's the trick right there, is like loving the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah. That reminds me of the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and how the concept is, if it doesn't spark joy, get rid of it. Now, that applies to books and knickknacks and everything else, but it also applies, I think, to relationships and to where you put your time and attention in the work world. That so many aspects of life could apply this spark joy concept to. So that's one thing that I thought of, one book and concept. And another, as you were talking, both of you, was The Tipping Point, the book by Malcolm Gladwell, and how he describes mavens, connectors, and salespeople. And to me, clearly, Joe, you're a connector, and to me, Matt, you're clearly a maven. I don't know if you've have you guys read that book?
I've actually never read The Tipping Point. I've heard about it a million times, and I feel like it should be in the list of books I've read, but it's one I've never actually done.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Yeah, no, I don't know as well, and that's why I was just writing these down. I was like, okay, I need to dive in, because I think you have a really good intuitive sense as well, Steph, just from hearing this.
Yeah, so I would check that out, and if you don't have time to read the book, just get the Kindle version and search for the phrase sales, maven, and then connector. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's a whole section about that in the book.
Yep.
And another thing that this sounds a little crazy, but it actually works. You don't have to read an entire book. You can just grab it and with an intention, like connect to above, right, to the higher realms, to the creator and to the fabric of creation, and just open the book with that intention to get whatever I'm meant to get. And it has blown me away time after time what I get by just randomly, and I'm using air quotes, opening a book up to some spot and just finding exactly the thing I needed, for somebody that I was talking to, family member, whatever, like, wow, you really are in a situation here. Let's see what we can find as some guidance, and I'll grab a book, like a Deepak Chopra book, or that person will have that book handy, and then I'll ask them to open it randomly, and it'll be like, bam, exactly what they needed to hear or read. Yeah, it's so powerful.
Oh, that's cool. So it's just, you just pick it up and essentially, take it all in and connect, and essentially randomly open it up and boom. Yeah, that's okay. I like it.
You could do that with a course even. You could do that with anything where you're needing to learn something and you're like, I am too overwhelmed to go through this entire piece of content.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my style. I'm in for that. I'll try that.
I never finish books. Very rarely. 1 out of 50 books will I actually finish, but I get what I need out of them almost every time.
See, that's a beautiful thing. And then maybe this is me and my brain is like, I for a lot of times I've beat myself up over not completing books, but I'm like, man, I've taken your approach. I'm like, man, I've cranked through so many books, it's ridiculous. Got to give myself a little bit more credit there. So
and know that your higher self is helping you to circle back and get to the things that you missed because you just happen to miss them, right? So if it's something that you really needed to get from that particular book and you didn't get all the way through it and you just randomly got bits, but it's not random, of course, nothing's random, then your higher self is going to nudge you, or the creator get you to go back and get that thing that you missed.
It's going to be there, and I'm going to know where to seek or know where to pay attention to when it does show up right in front of me again.
And I love, by the way, that, Joe, you mentioned a breathing meditation because I'm getting into breathing myself more. I mean, breathing is kind of what you have to do to live. But
I love it. Yeah, I'm getting into breathing.
I'm totally into getting to consuming calories and to breathing air. Like, okay, right. No, but the Wim Hof breathing method that I've been doing multiple times a week, I'd like to get to the point where I'm doing it daily. It is amazing. Have you ever tried it?
Oh, it's a game changer. I've been doing that that's what got me on this, I think, love affair of breath work is him. Yeah, the Iceman. So we've yet to bring him on the podcast. He's scared, or his team is scared of the marketing approach. So I've been in touch with him and we're trying to get him. So let's see. But yeah, he is absolutely amazing. And that was like 5 years ago, I think 6 years ago or so. I stumbled across him, and he's blown up ever since in terms of popularity. So it's great. It can be aggressive for some people. I've seen that kind of almost like bring on almost reactions in bodies that are almost too much for people to handle. So yeah, when doing it, it's like you said, kind of easing into it. The way that I use Wim Hof is if I need to ramp up, if I feel like I'm just kind of sluggish and just out of it, that's a good, hey, pump a lot of energy into my body and kind of chills everything out at the same time. It's this cool flow state happens.
Yeah.
One more I'll recommend, and this is it's actually someone I connected with a long time ago and just happened to stumble upon his stuff, but now he's kind of blown up in the breathwork space, is called Soma breathing, SOMA breathing, and you can find it on YouTube. Tons of cool things. It's a mixture of you could use it as a visualization thing. I don't, but it times up breathing with music and beats. So you're actually breathing to the beat of a music, so it's like 4 beats of a song, and then 8 beats out. So like that exhalation is the part that really chills you out. So if you're ever feeling anxious or pent up, like an easy method is just, breathe in 4 beats and out 8. And, Soma breathing, it's really cool. Like you could do them for 2 different reasons. The Wim Hof is cool for a lot of stuff. And then the Soma one is like, you could just apply it, and it's almost like you could walk around with earbuds in if you wanted to, and no one would ever know you're doing breath work. And you're just kind of keeping to this rhythm and keeping your mind and body in a good spot.
Very cool. Very cool. So are you familiar with the book Breath by James Nestor?
Nestor, yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. That opens your eyes to oxygen.
Yeah, very, very important book to read. Book.
Yeah. He would be one. He would be a great one for the podcast. See, it's like people like that who can apply, like, okay, let's talk about how things that we might take for granted or not apply to business and marketing, and then like, hey, let's use this as a tool, as everything is, if you apply it that way.
That's a wrap. Almost.
Except for this outro.
Yes, exactly. And we promise to have a lot more goods for you as well. Should we get some love for Easy Webinar really fast?
You just want to go straight to the Easy Webinar love?
Just a little love to give them some love. Okay. Why the heck not?
Let's do it.
I mean, hey, well, Easy Webinar, we always kind of reserve that after our little banter. We'll keep it quick, but like hold on with us because we got some cool stuff for you in a minute. But Easy Webinar, that's our jam when it comes to webinars.
It is.
Not easies. It's easy with webinar.
I have a list of things that are easy, and then I put webinars on the list because I have Easy Webinar.
Right. Yeah, it helps. Oh. So Easy Webinar does everything it says it does. It makes everything about webinars easy.
Yeah, does the lives, the automateds, the hybrids.
Automateds.
The lives,
said lives twice.
The pages.
There's a lot of different types of lives you could do, though.
You could live streams. You can have like
They
four
have like
boxes.
a Zoom room type thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I know you said your kids have used it before, so it's a widespread technology that's trusted by educators.
And their landing pages look really good, and you can have people schedule what time they want to view your webinar and make it convenient for your customer or your
All
viewer.
that's to say is if you're ever thinking about using webinars, or if you're using webinars right now and you're not using Easy Webinar, you're obviously not using the easiest solution. You just like working harder, maybe, huh?
It's got
That's funky.
Easy in the name, which, is saying something.
Yeah, so they are hooking you up with a fatty discount. So go over to easywebinar.com/hustle and you will get a substantial discount. It's actually, it's worth checking out the page because there's a lot of other things you'll learn about Easy Webinar that you're not learning right now.
Yeah.
So easywebinar.com/hustle will hook you up. And also the action guides of this episode, we talked about a lot.
Yeah, flowchartgroup.com.
Stefan extracted interesting things from our minds. We were not expecting to go there.
No.
But I think there was some intangible things, huh?
Yeah, but we went there.
So flowchartgroup.com.
Flowchartgroup.com.
What do they do there, Matt?
If you go to flowchart,
You're just staring at me awkwardly.
I thought you were going to finish the call to action, but I'll finish it.
Please do.
If you go to flowchartgroup.com, you can join our Facebook group. And when you join our Facebook group, we'll ask you for your email. If you give us that email, we'll hook you up with the action guide.
We would greatly appreciate the email, but I'm pretty sure you'd greatly appreciate the notes.
Yeah, it's a fair trade.
I think so.
Flowchartgroup.com.
Come on.
So let's talk about the thing we just talked about.
We talked about things. This was an interesting turn of events that this became our own episode.
Yes, it was.
But thank you, Stefan. And again, his Marketing Speak podcast is obviously a lot about marketing, but then he has Get Yourself Optimized as well. It's just called Get Yourself Optimized podcast. And those are his two shows. Go check them out. And
he's also got a YouTube channel at Stefan Spencer. You search up Stefan Spencer and you'll find his YouTube channel. I don't know the URL to his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But it's Stefan Spencer. You'll find it. But yeah, if you're just jumping in later, you skip the intro. You're obviously not jumping in at the outro, but if you skipped the intro, basically what we did with this episode was we were interviewed for Stefan Spencer's podcast, and then there was a little tech glitch and we weren't able to actually use that audio for his podcast. So we said, hey, can we share that audio on our podcast? Because we really, really enjoyed the conversation. We love the questions you asked. And so he graciously gave us the audio and we turned that into a podcast that you get to hear because it was never going to get heard otherwise. And we actually really liked
it. Yes.
We actually really liked what came out in that conversation. So we wanted to make sure we shared it with you.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We talked about a lot. And honestly, we're recording this maybe 30 minutes after.
Yeah.
And already I'm
at least.
Yeah. Already kind of forgot a little bit of some of these, but I know like a big thing that has recently been, something we've been thinking about is kind of like, celebrating the stuff in the now along with our journey, and like the whole fun experience, like creating fun experiences throughout everything. We talked about blocking off fun and like looking at actions that we're taking. And I feel like it's a lot of stuff we've chatted about here on the show before, but I think that it's crystallizing even more so of how you can really engineer this.
If I'm honest, I feel like on that call, you and I sort of like worked out some stuff, right? Like there was
like what?
Well, no, I think there was some stuff on the call where we were almost like coming to realizations as he was asking the questions.
True. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's stuff that we've talked about, but I feel like there's stuff that we kind of further solidified during the conversation. Like when we were talking about how we're curators, he kind of dug in on that, and we kind of got deeper and deeper to the root of what makes us curators, right?
Yeah.
Like we got kind of to the root of the fact that like I've always kind of paid a lot of attention to the tech world and what's going on in like the technology space, and you're kind of a connector, and you've kind of always kept your finger on the pulse of the who, and I've kept my finger on the pulse of like the what kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And so we kind of uncovered that sort of thing on the episode and went, okay, well, that's kind of why the curation model makes the most sense. It's like we knew the curation model made sense for us, but I think we almost kind of like uprooted the why I think works for us on that episode.
The who, what, why all came out. But Matt, I'm sorry to say, unfortunately for you, they wrote a book already. Dan Sullivan wrote a book. Who, not what.
Who, not what? Yeah.
Or who, not how.
Who, not how.
Yeah, damn it. I was trying to think it was the what. You're the what guy.
Yeah, it's who, not how.
Yeah, all right. Oh, my brain misfired.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah.
I was trying to get you.
It happens.
No,
a lot.
Who, what, how. Yeah. Yeah, no, it does. Or the why. Yeah, the why. But basically, okay, damn it, that reference failed.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But yeah,
there was an attempt.
He extracted some stuff. You're right. I think he did like extract these details and nuances that we might have taken for granted, with our personalities and like the stuff that we're interested in and how we push each other in different directions. Where it's like it's a yin and yang thing. We were talking about this a lot yesterday, not on a podcast anywhere,
It's
but
true.
Of how it's like we're rooted in. I feel like some of the best. It's rooted in our best selves separately, but when we realize that we are working together in this thing that's constantly ebbing and flowing, but listening to like the systems and the constraints that you might put on things, but how we can optimize those things and maybe make them run smoother and add a couple things that are going to be automated to that or whatever it is that complement. I feel like that's how we've naturally grown, and I don't know, I guess we're realizing a lot more of the details than ever before.
Yeah, well, I also think it's interesting too because he was sort of asking about numbers and stuff, right? Like, what are the KPIs? What are the milestones we were going for? And it was kind of interesting in the moment because back in the day, let's just say 4 or 5 years ago, we would have been really hung up on numbers, right? We would have been watching numbers like a hawk and going, okay, once we hit this number, then cool, we've made it, or we're going to buy this thing, or we're going to do this thing, or whatever, right? Like, we were very focused on numbers and KPIs, and I feel like over time, our business has shifted to like less about the numbers and more about like kind of how our business makes us feel internally, like how we enjoy our business, how we figure out how to do our day-to-day stuff, but also monetize doing the stuff we want to be doing. And so over time, I feel like we've had this shift, and I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing. I'm not saying everybody should stop like, paying attention to numbers or anything, but I feel like we've had this shift where we've prioritized the sort of lifestyle and we've prioritized the enjoyment. We've prioritized this sort of inner portion of it more so than we've prioritized the numbers.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the best way to put it, is that the priorities have shifted. Because numbers obviously are important because to an extent, but that's not our mile marker. Like, our goals aren't set in numbers. And as before, I think we've had a realization that like for me personally, I think the realization I showed to you yesterday is my mind always had this, like, what's my next goal? What's the next place I want to move to? What's the next car I want to get? Or not like I get, I cycle. So I've had the habit over the years of basically cycling through a new residence every 3 years or so. And it's like I'm already at that point in the house that I own now. And I'm like, wait, hold on, but I like this house a lot. But my brain's telling me I need to be searching for the next big, like, thing that I should upgrade my life to for some reason. But it's like, but doesn't need to be in the form of another house. It could be in the form of just optimizing what I got and really appreciating it. And I know Stefan said it on there. It's like, oh, focus on the present. It's like, and it's so damn hard sometimes, especially when you have a business that's driven by numbers. I mean, like, because to your point, it's true. I feel like we prioritize that big time, but then the numbers are 100% things that, like, we are still looking at all the time, obviously, and they're extremely important. But it's cool is that we have the KPIs, for like Joe Kearns and the team, is working all these different. And I say the team, Mike, Joe and Mike, but, and they have KPIs. We have our team, Sue and Jacob, the internal like content team and support team, they're looking at their numbers and reporting back to us with certain things, which keeps us all in the loop. And it's been working out better that way. I felt like when we've obsessed over the numbers, maybe it was just like this kind of anxiety would kind of linger there because we'd feel like we always got to like, okay, it's like a sprint all the time to hit that target. But it's like, I don't know. I just feel like now with the systems and the right people that we are hitting the targets and we're not so stressed with, like, I guess, growth to the next big move.
No, I think we're like, it's not
hard
like
to say, I guess.
It's not like we don't want to keep growing and get the business bigger and make more and more and more money and all that kind of stuff. like what you're talking about, lifestyle creep of like, as you make more money, you get a bigger house, you buy, nicer cars, you start buying new computers, new gadgets. Next thing you know, like the cost to run your life, you still have the same amount of money left over at the end of the month because your lifestyle went up with the
not
income.
A good habit, at least. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like just in our business in general, we've kind of, it's not really lifestyle creep, but like the business, we've kind of let it stop creeping in the sense of like, we're not looking for more opportunities to pursue. In fact, we're actively like trying to repel ourselves from opportunities. We did talk about that. Yeah. It's like, opportunity creep is no longer a thing for us. We're not letting more stuff creep in unless it really, really makes sense, and it's not going to super negatively impact our day-to-day and the lifestyle that we've created for ourselves.
We have constraints on very key things now, and we don't let. Yeah, and I think that does shut down our brain to a lot of the things that we were just letting creep in.
Yeah.
And it would occupy our mind space and take our minds off of things like the numbers. Because the things, when we look at the numbers, that's when you and I are getting together in a focused time to really study these things. It might be in our team meetings, or looking at the analytics when they send them over, or chatting with Joe Kearns and Mike and, about very specific things. But we know the categories that we're looking at. And the drivers, like, we see the downloads on all of our, like the engagement on the channels like we were talking about. Like, we know that that's the input of new people, or people keeping attention on us.
Yeah.
Email list growth, engagement rate there. And then it's like all of that's going to have the effect of revenue and other things. And obviously we optimize conversions and things like that. But it's not like we have to constantly be stressing over the numbers. Like nah.
Yeah, Naval Ravikant has a quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote. I don't know the exact word for word quote, but he has a quote that's something to the effect of, don't set goals, build systems, right? Because if you're setting goals and you're saying that this is the goal I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to get to, $500,000 by the end of the year. That's the goal I'm trying to achieve. Well, if you achieve it, you're probably going to move the goalpost and want more than that. If you don't achieve it, you're going to beat yourself up for not having achieved the goal.
Yeah.
Right. But if you create systems that every day you're moving a little bit closer to the goal, you're less concerned about actually like getting to the goal. That your main concern is creating the system that makes this thing happen. So like, don't really worry about like setting a goal way out into the future. Create a system now that's going to get you to where you want to get, and ideally you'll even surpass it.
You're creating your journey, basically.
Yeah.
And you're creating other mechanisms to help you, shore up your journey or make that lifestyle possible for you along that way.
Yeah. So like when Stefan was kind of digging in on like the numbers, the KPIs, the systems, I think in my head, I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, there's not a specific number we're shooting for. And even for the past like several months, there wasn't a specific number we were trying to get to that we were happy when we'd get it. Instead, like, our brains are kind of focused on like, what system can we create that's going to make our life easier? What system can we create that's going to add a recurring revenue stream to our business every month? What system can we create that's going to make sure that the email list keeps on growing so we have a market to promote to? Like, we're very focused on like the things that we do that can be systematized, and we're not focused at all on the like, we're shooting to get to $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
No, we're focused on like, if we add this element to our business, this piece to our business is just going to forever beyond this point be a little bit bigger than it was before.
Yeah. Well, this should be I feel like this should be a tease. This episode's a tease of the next one we'll do about our takeaways of the psychology of money.
Yeah, which was actually supposed to be out today's episode, but this episode made, I think, more sense in a sequential fashion.
Yeah.
So
yeah, especially with like what's been going on in our lives and our business and the psychology of money. I mean, there was a lot of elements that like moving the goalposts and things like that we've hinted at already here. But yeah, man, I mean, that thing, I think that book, along with some of the other mentals, like talking with Angelo Cisco that we had on a couple weeks back, doing training with the Alpha Hippie crew. Like, we're going.
If that episode's come out by now, I'm not sure. Now that we're recording the schedule that we're on, it gets confusing for us to know whether episodes have been out yet or not. But
okay, so if it's out or whatever, there is a new one. There's an older episode, but yeah, the mention is like we've been doing a lot of work with them as well. And I think it's just like a really cool time right now where we're having a lot of aha moments where we kind of can just like let go of a lot of crap that just doesn't serve. And I say crap in like I guess the nicest way, but I feel like at the same time, it's like, man, there's just, we all experience a lot of noise. Yeah. And without the right filters and without the right mindset, setup, partners, understanding of each other, communication, all this stuff, like it's so easy to just kind of just get caught up in it all. Yeah. And then you quickly go like, oh, what the hell am I doing now? I don't know. So, yeah. It's cool. So Wealth About, and that's the thing, the Psychology of Money book, I think is really rooted in having enough. Mm-hmm. And that's where we've reached, I think, in this business now, is prioritizing lifestyle and that, and optimizing for the future.
And having enough doesn't necessarily mean like you're not going to gladly accept more.
Correct.
Like, we're still building. We're still growing this thing.
Yeah.
We're still on a rocket ship here.
When I say having enough is like, okay, now the gains, the increases are invested in many other ways in our life. Yeah. And it's not always, I mean, it's monetarily as well, but it's also investing in relationships with our family. I know we're like hanging out with our family much more because we're engineering that, like on Wednesdays and on the weekends. Like there's not a lot of or any work creep really on those days, and even the other days of the week, like we're actively trying to shorten those too. Yeah. So I think that's like there's wealth being built all over the place for us. Yeah. But it's been I guess a different approach. So next time we chat about the psychology of money, we'll go deeper on that.
Yeah, if you're a really fast reader, go grab that book before next week's episode, and you can follow along. Yeah,
it's pretty short. It's like what, Audible? I think it was like 6 hours or something like that.
I mean, I read the Kindle version, and I think I read it in 2, maybe 3 sittings. Yeah. So maybe 3 sittings of like an hour and a half each or so. Yeah.
I guess I think it's short if it's an audio. I mean, that's pretty damn short, but yeah.
I mean, it's 200 pages. It's not a long book.
That's true. So get the book, Psychology of Money. Is a great one.
And we'll talk about it more in the next episode. But,
yes.
But it was, spoiler alert, we're going to recommend it.
No. Worst book ever. Yeah. What else? Anything else?
Nope.
Miss anything?
That's it. Go leave us a review.
We'd love to read some.
Yeah, we'd love to read some, but...
I don't. It's either Chartable or Apple's not report. I've tried to log in other countries. You know, we tried to go to Australia. I know we have a bunch of reviews there in the UK.
We need to just pay for Chartable again. I think it's like $50 a year or something stupid.
Okay, well, there you go. So, sorry if you have
Chartable
left a
used
review.
to give us that information for free, and apparently now you have to pay to get it. So.
Okay, so they're changing stuff on us. So we don't have a review prepared, but we'd love to read yours if you post one. Yeah. And we would gladly appreciate if you shared it around to your friend or your fellows.
And one last reminder.
Yes?
Flowchartgroup.com.
That's a good spot to be. Community, notes. You can pick Matt's brain and ask him anything. He's required to give you an answer. The correct answer, that is.
Or the answer of, ow.
Ow. How do you type that out? Like what? How do you spell that?
I-UNNO. I-UNO.
Oh.
I-UNO.
I-UNO.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's like that.
That should be the title of this episode.
I don't know.
It's going to light up. Everyone's going to love it.
Yeah, super hot topic.
I don't know.
I bet we could rank for it.
Is the .com available?
I don't know.
That's right. What are we going to have for a late lunch?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, what are you going to do this weekend?
I don't know. See, Joe wants to get shirts on him that say y'all, and I want to get shirts now that say I don't know.
Let's just get them anyway. Yeah. We'll just wear them, and then
we can have also a shirt.
Y'all?
Wait for this. A shirt that says I don't know, y'all. People would buy that. You'd buy that, wouldn't you?
Let us know. In the form of a review.
I thought you were going to say in the form of a rubber stamp. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
In the form of a rubber stamp. I couldn't get the R's out. It was a tongue twister, and I was not expecting that one. But yeah, in the form of a review. Yeah. There we go.
Well, we have legitimately been talking about selling merch and stuff again, but we'll get it at a different day.
We have resources to do. Yes, we should do that. We're also getting. Should we hint that we're doing some changes on our website?
No, we should not hint that we're doing some changes on our website.
Okay, we're not doing anything. So until next time. We'll speak then, I guess.
Bye-bye.
Awkward ending.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Before taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice, simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address, and we'll send you the notes. Thanks for listening.
Go get it.
Wiki.